Hello and welcome to the Anthropic Principle on the Edge. And that's about the most intelligent I've sounded all day. Thank you so much for joining me. So what we're looking at today is this guy you're seeing in front of you here, the CIVIVI Anthropos liner lock flipper. Let's pop that down and we can have a quick look at him. So what this is an Elijah Isham design. And he probably needs no introduction. I was quite surprised doing a little bit of reading up on him that he hasn't actually been designing knives for that long, and he's had quite a profound effect, I think, and influence on knife design, and his knife designs certainly are well known. Bizarre knife designs, intriguing perhaps, maybe that's a better word for it, but designs like the Echelon, the CIVIVI Echelon and Arrakis, and knives like the Kaiser Megatherium, probably the best known currently of his designs. Not particularly my taste in knives, but once again, they are intriguing designs. This one is far more restrained and does actually appeal to me, I must say, the more sort of restrained, more conservative approach. But interesting. This is his words, how he approaches design. And I'm quoting him now. He approaches design from an almost surrealistic perspective to delve into the irrational and non-analytic aesthetic of the subconscious. Can you hear the crickets? What does one say to that? What can one add to that? Okay, so let's just keep going, shall we? So what we will do, as per normal, I'll discuss materials, dimensions, and then speak about the design and attributes of the knife. So, materials. Blade is Damascus. It's a flat ground blade. They don't state what Damascus. It's not a Damasteel, that's for sure, but a Damascus blade nevertheless. Handle is G10 with a carbon fiber overlay. Liner is stainless steel. The clip is stainless steel. In fact, all the hardware is stainless steel. So you've got torque screws and a stainless steel liner. The pivot is a caged steel ball bearing. And then the big backspacer there is G10. Right, so I think that covers all the materials. Dimensions. We have a blade length of 82 millimeters or 3.25 inches. The thickness of that blade is 3 millimeters or 0.12 inches. Tapers off quite early to quite a thin blade in the front. What was that? 3 mils or 0.12 inches, I said. Handle thickness, we've got a handle thickness excluding clip of 12 millimeters or 0.47 inches. Handle length, so folded length or handle length, is 106 millimeters or 4.15 inches. And then keep doing this weird angle of this. We'll speak about that now, that flipper. Overall length is 188 millimeters or 7.4 inches. And then weight, let's check weight of this guy. He's quite a light knife. I've got it written down, the stated specs. Let's just see how my scale, as I always do, matches up to stated weights. Get that on. Right, we're on grams, and I get 90 grams, so a little bit lighter than what they say. Their stated weight is 93 grams. Okay, now I've got 91 grams. maybe we should trust what they've given rather than my scale. Okay, 91 grams, and that is 3.2 ounces, and they have 3.28 ounces. So there or thereabouts. Nevertheless, it is a very light knife. Right, so let's speak about the design. So let's start with the blade. We've got a drop point blade, a very, very, very subtle little swedge running along the edge at the back of the blade. Quite a deep belly. By the way, while I'm speaking about it, the edge on this knife, beautifully done, as CIVIVI and WE knives do. Very, very nicely done. Not much of a ricasso to speak about on this knife. You kind of see it a little bit hiding behind the handle there, and then the rest of it is is really taken up by that triangular hole cut into the blade. Very, very nicely done. The way the ricasso transitions into that Damascus blade as well is very nice, because the angle, you're cutting through that Damascus. So you get almost the edge, if that makes sense, of that Damascus pattern. So you're seeing the edge of the Damascus pattern end on, and then the sort of top view of it there, if that makes sense. But just a nice different pattern there in that transition. I think that's very, very attractive. We do have a sharpening choil come finger choil. Now, I think that is a finger choil. It's a rather shallow finger choil, but it is big enough to comfortably fit a finger in there. And it's actually quite similar to the Medford Slim Midi, and the Dad Hunt as well is the same way, of that sort of, let's put them like that sort of shallow front finger choil for choking up on the blade. But you can, there too, you can comfortably get your finger in or on that, I suppose is a better way of saying it. And it is the same on this knife. No jimping really to speak about. Well, there's no jimping on the back, no jimping around the back of the knife at all. The only little bit of jimping is on the lock, the liner lock there, and then that oddly shaped flipper tab. We've got a little bit of jimping in the front there, and it is oddly shaped. You can see it's sort of forward facing. Is that if that's a front flipper on that side, and if that's a normal flipper there, does that make it a top flipper? I don't know, but it is in an odd place. But when you sort of figure out what angle to flip it in, it does. I mean, that wasn't very good, but it does actually fly out when you get it the right angle. What is nice is when the blade is open, that flipper perfectly fits in and matches the shape of the handle there. So it doesn't stick out there at all. You can see it just nicely fits in there because of that angle. Okay, size of the knife, that's my medium fingers, or my fingers that belong to a medium-sized hand. You know what I mean? Fit very comfortably on that handle, quite close to the edge. So if you've got bigger fingers, you are going to start a bigger hand. You're going to start straying towards the back end of that handle. That swoopy design does create a very big finger choil there, and that's comfortable to grasp like that. So speaking of that swoopy design, you can see the whole knife has a very, very sort of swoopy kind of, and that on a lot of these knives, we see that sort of swoopiness, again, much more toned down on this. But what I do like is these little lines that are cut into the carbon fiber. And the way those lines are considered, so you can see the way that line swoops down and then just seamlessly joins the little arc of the handle there. So that shape there, and then cuts back into the handle and through the logo. But look where it comes out on that side as well. It perfectly comes out at the bottom of that triangle that's cut into the blade. It's really nicely considered and very pleasing to the eye, the way that just flows around there. And then you got the other line that swoops across the top and ends at that top corner of the handle, which is where your blade starts. So yeah, very nicely done, very nicely considered. I spoke about, it's sort of a semi-closed back design. I spoke about that big G10 backspacer in there. And then the liner, we've got the stainless steel liner, black to match the handle. And then, just the standard lock. You can see that the liner sits just, if you look at it from the side, a little bit proud of the handle, just so that you can get your finger in there easily to disengage that lock. This knife as well is also one of those, let's see if I can get a good flick. There we go, that was a bit better. This is one of those blades as well, or knives as well, that has the stop pin that, I've mentioned this in a few knife reviews and have sort of rambled on about it, trying to explain that, but you can see very clearly there now, the stop pin that is mounted to the blade moves around with the blade. And then in this case, because it's open, you can see what's happening there. At the back, there's a little pocket right there. That's the liner. And then there's a little pocket in there that that stop pin then goes up against when it reaches its maximum sort of arc to the back, with the lock pushing against that. That's what I was sort of trying to explain. So now you can see there's the two stop pins. There is the stop pin resting in its little pockets there in the blade's open position. Now in those other knives, that was a closed design. You couldn't see that, so there was a little channel that stop pin was running inside the handle, inside the handle. So that kind of better explains what I was trying to explain on those other knives. We've got, let's just get him closed. We've got a tip up pocket carry, and that clip is reversible. So tip up pocket clip, that's what I wanted to say. It is reversible, and it is deep carry. So it is one of those that winds around, a nice little bent area here, ski ramp thing that allows you to get it over cloth, and it is very springy. It's not countersunk. The screws are countersunk, but there is quite a lot of room in the back there. And then if you picture that in your pocket, of course, you will be seeing the whole clip. But so imagine you're still seeing the clip. That's what's going to be sticking out the top of your pocket, is that little bit of the back of the knife there, like a little shark fin sticking out of your pocket. So very discreet carry. Knife is beautifully made, as CIVIVI's are. CIVIVI is a sub-brand of WE. It is their budget range, but I've mentioned this before. They don't have to stand back from a quality standpoint. The cost cutting is done on materials. So, you've got the carbon fiber here, but the carbon fiber is just an overlay on G10. The Damascus steel blade is not Damas steel. We don't have ceramic bearings. We've got cage steel bearings. It's that sort of thing. That's where the cost cutting is done. But in terms of fit and finish, there is no compromise. The fit and finish on this knife is absolutely superb, absolutely bang on. Let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to speak about. Oh yes, there is. So the liner it's a light knife, and I think it would have been a light knife anyway, but that liner is further, and boy, I never have success in this. I'm going to try it again. If I can get a little bit of light in there, maybe you can just see that liner has been skeletonized, and it's been skeletonized on both sides. So quite a lot of material actually taken off that liner to make it, and that obviously contributes to that 93 grams or 91 grams, whether you want to believe me or CIVIVI. That's your choice. But yeah, that obviously, oh boy, that contributes to that overall lightness. Do I need to say it, guys, that this knife, once again, has been provided to me by Blades and Triggers in South Africa. I really, really appreciate their support for providing another knife to me to have a look at, to fiddle with it for a few days and form an opinion and share that with you. I've mentioned before, go to Blades and Triggers in Eastgate in Johannesburg in South Africa. There we go. That's to get on Earth. That's to give you any intergalactic listeners that may be watching. That's where I'm from. At Blades and Triggers, this knife sells for 2,610. I think very reasonable for materials and the quality of finish on this knife. So 2,610 South African Rand. And then I saw him on Blades and Triggers, this specific one, for around about $97. And I say this specific one because there are a number of options on this. So it's obviously a design they believe in, because they've done it in a number of materials. So you get this knife, when I say this knife, this exact handle, but with a D2 satin blade. Then you get also that configuration with the D2 satin blade, but where the G10 layer under the carbon fiber is orange. So you get that orange coming through in those lines and on the edge, and then the exact same thing but in blue. So you get blue coming through on those lines and around the edge, quite a sort of bright blue. Then there's a stone-washed brass-handled version that has a 154 cm satin finish blade, and then there's a stone-washed copper version that also has a Damascus blade, but from the pictures I've seen, it looks like a different pattern Damascus. So a number of options. If you like the knife, you can get a few versions of it. And now I think I have covered everything on the knife. But yeah, I'm impressed with this knife. It is, as I said, it's another well-built, well-designed, well-considered knife from CIVIVI, and probably of Elijah, I should say, of Elijah Isham's designs, probably the one that I like the most. I don't particularly like his sort of more way out designed knives. Let me lay that down. We'll do a little size comparison, and I'm going to bring out my usual guys. So we've got the, what is this? The Spyderco Manix 2. Give you a sense of that. So the Manix 2, a little bit bigger, I think, in all dimensions. It is certainly quite a lot heavier. Thickness is probably about the same. The Spyderco has a thicker blade stock. That's that. Then we've got the knife I had on here a second ago, the Medford Slim Midi. Give you a sense of that. Sort of in that same realm, I think, from a thickness perspective as well. Yeah, the Medford's a little bit heavier, you could expect. And then what have we got? We got the Benchmade Mini Barrage, I think a knife that a lot of people know, a little bit smaller. But I think if you're comfortable with carrying a Mini Barrage, this knife you'll be comfortable with as well. It is a little bit longer, but you know, it's got that same sort of lightness to it, and actually a little bit thinner. And then while I've got this knife still hanging about, let's have a look at that as well. So this is the Spyderco little sub-hilt. Get him open. Much chunkier blade, but you know, sort of top view, you can see that they cover the same sort of real estate, I guess. But it is a chunkier knife, the Spyderco, and considerably heavier as well. And then another knife I've been messing around with, I haven't really looked at for a long time, but I may as well pop him on here as well and give you a little bit of eye candy. And that's this fella, the CIVIVI design Zero Tolerance 0456. I think a knife that quite a lot of people know, and a good looking knife, but also not too dissimilar in size on side view. The CIVIVI is quite a bit chubbier and heavier than the CIVIVI Anthropos. So I think that now has covered everything. So guys, that was the CIVIVI Anthropos. Thank you so much for staying with me through my rambling again. And I think that's all I have for you today. Thanks once again for joining me. Really do appreciate you stopping by. Guys, and I would appreciate it if you would subscribe and hit that bell icon. I'd love you to join me more often. And other than that, you go well and God bless.